The rain wasn't real, it was programmed. Each drop shimmered with static as it hit the neon pavement. Jackson Vire didn't care. His coat was soaked in light and lies, and his pulse gun weighed heavy under it. He had one job tonight: collect a debt. The debtor lived in the upper tiers of Vorexis City, a place where oxygen was filtered twice and morality not even once. Jackson wasn't the kind of man who asked questions. He broke kneecaps, not codes. But when he arrived at the Crimson Mansion floating over the skyline, things felt off. Guards in Duke insignia stopped him, their armor glowing faint blue. "You got an appointment, scum?" one hissed. Jackson flashed the digital note. "Lord Revick owes the syndicate 70,000 credits. I'm here to remind him before reminders get messy." They let him through. Inside, holograms danced, gold poured like light, and a woman stood at the center of it all, skin pale like starlight, eyes fractal blue. "Not human." "Not entirely." "Who are you?" Jackson asked. Her voice was silk laced with static. "Revick's wife." "Or his property." The Duke stumbled in, half drunk on plasma wine. "She's worth more than what I owe," he sneered. "Take her instead." Jackson froze. He'd seen debt paid in blood, in limbs, but never in living beings. Especially not ones who looked at him like she wanted to be anywhere else. Her eyes met his again. There was no fear. Just hope. And that's what broke him. He didn't plan to save anyone tonight. But sometimes debts collect you. The moment he took her hand, the syndicate marked them both for death. The Duke's grin stretched wide, his gold cyber teeth glinting in the light. "She's hybrid tech, you know. Grew her in the lunar labs. Half alien, half perfect." He shoved her forward like a trophy. "Take her, Vire. Consider the debt erased." Jackson's jaw locked. "I collect numbers, not people." The Duke chuckled. "Then you'll die poor." The guards laughed too, until one of them flinched at the look in Jackson's eyes. The collector wasn't known for mercy. He was known for results. But this wasn't business anymore. Something in the woman's eyes, cold, galaxies trapped behind glass, made him pause. "What's your name?" he asked her. She hesitated, voice trembling with a melody not human. "Lyra." The Duke snorted. "She doesn't have a name. She has a serial number." That did it. Jackson's hand moved faster than thought. His pulse gun barked once, burning a hole through the Duke's ledger console. Sparks showered across the room. "You just lost your collateral," Jackson growled. Lyra's gaze darted to the door. "They'll kill us both." "Yeah," Jackson said, holstering his weapon. "Let's make it hard for them." He grabbed her wrist and dragged her toward the balcony. The mansion's glass walls shimmered as alarm drones shrieked. Guards stormed the hall. Lyra pressed her palm against the air, her skin lit with bioluminescent runes. The barrier opened like liquid light. "Jump," she whispered. He didn't ask how or why. He just trusted her and stepped into the storm. The rain turned solid neon as gravity vanished beneath them, and behind, the Duke screamed their names into the night, promising retribution. They didn't know it yet. But the Duke wasn't. The only one hunting them, the syndicate, had just put a bounty on both their heads. The city swallowed them whole. Jackson and Lyra fell through the vapor glare, wind screaming against their faces. Below, hover traffic streaked like veins of light in a steel monster's body. Jackson twisted midair. Activating his grav belt, its flickering field barely caught them before impact. They crashed onto a maintenance bridge, metal groaning under the force. Sparks burst. His ribs screamed. Lyra landed beside him, eyes glowing faintly, like stars seen through smoke. "You all right?" he gasped. She looked down at the glowing lines on her wrist. "They'll trace me through my implant. We have minutes," Jackson cursed, pulling a chip from his belt pouch. "Then let's buy some time." He jammed it into her neck port, an old syndicate scrambler. The runes on her skin flickered, then dimmed. "Connection lost," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. "You broke the link." "Didn't break it," Jackson said. "Just hit it. They'll find us again." Sirens howled across the skyline. Above, drones fanned out like hungry vultures, red beams slicing through the smog. "Who are you, Lyra?" he asked as they ran across the bridge, rain hitting like shards of glass. She hesitated. "A weapon that learned to dream." Her words hit harder than the wind. Jackson had seen monsters made by men. but never one that cried at what she was forced to become. Behind them, explosions lit up the tower where the Duke had been. Someone didn't want witnesses alive. "Guess the syndicate's cleaning up," Jackson muttered. Lyra's voice was small. "Then we're next." They vanished into the underbelly of the city where light went to die. But in the dark, something older than the syndicate waited. A secret tied to Lyra's creation and Jackson's past. The lower sectors of Vorexis smelled like rust, oil, and broken promises. Neon didn't reach this deep. Only the hum of old machines kept the dark alive. Jackson guided Lyra through a labyrinth of forgotten tunnels, his pulse gun drawn and senses wired tight. She walked quietly, her feet bare on the steel. The bioluminescence in her skin dimmed to a soft glow, enough for him to see her, not enough for the hunters above. "You've been here before," she said. Jackson nodded. "Used to collect debts for the syndicate here, before they decided I was worth less than what I collected." She looked at him, curiosity softening her alien features. "They betrayed you too." He gave a bitter smirk. "Welcome to the club." They stopped at a rusted blast door marked Sector 9 Omega. Jackson entered an old access code. The lock hissed and slid open, revealing an abandoned data hub. Cracked hollow screens flickered to life, showing frozen faces of the past. "This place is off-grid," he said. "We can lay low until I figure out what they want with you." Lyra touched one of the dead terminals. A surge of light sparked from her fingers. The system rebooted instantly, old code flowing like blood revived. "You just jump-started a mainframe with your hand," Jackson muttered. Lyra looked frightened. "I didn't mean to. It just responded." The screens blinked and an archived log appeared, dated years before her birth. It showed scientists, genetic tanks, and a soldier. Jackson froze. It was him. The file named him as the first. Donor, the human DNA that created Lyra. She wasn't just connected to his past. She was born from it. Jackson stared at the hollow screen as if it had punched the air out of him. The image flickered, his younger self. Strapped to a medical rig, tubes running into his veins. Scientists in white shell suits hovered nearby, their voices distorted by static. "Subject 47's genome has stabilized. Hybrid embryo viable." Lyra's hand trembled as she reached toward the projection. You're my origin." Jackson stepped back, his throat tightening. "That can't be real. I never—" "You were a soldier," she interrupted softly. "They used your DNA to create fusion species. Me? I was designed to obey." He clenched his fists. "The syndicate sold my body after I went AWOL. Guess they made sure I kept paying debts even after I stopped breathing." Lyra looked away, her eyes glistening. "That's why the Duke kept me. I wasn't his wife. I was his experiment." Jackson paced, anger flashing behind his tired eyes. "They made you from me and he owned you. That makes him own part of me too. I can't let that stand." Suddenly, the air vibrated with a deep metallic hum. Outside the hub, lights flickered. Lyra's head snapped toward the corridor. "They've found us." "How?" Jackson demanded. Her voice broke. "The moment I touched the system, it reconnected to the grid." "I told you. I'm a weapon, Jackson." He pulled her close, pulse gun raised. "Then let's see what happens when the weapon fights back." Through the doorway, red drones swarmed like a mechanical storm, scanners flashing. Jackson took aim. Lyra's eyes lit bright blue, data patterns spiraling across her skin. She was done running. From the syndicate. From her past. From the man who made her. The weapon had awakened. The drones poured into the corridor, their red sensors cutting through the dark. Jackson ducked behind a shattered console, firing controlled bursts. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, lighting the walls in blue fire. Lyra stood in the open, unafraid. Her eyes blazed brighter, the runes across her body pulsing like a living circuit. When she raised her hand, the air itself vibrated. A shockwave of light exploded outward. The drones froze mid-air, their engines whining before collapsing into molten scrap. Sparks rained around her like falling stars. Jackson peeked out, stunned. What the hell was that? Lyra looked at her hands, terrified. "Something they programmed in me. I was never supposed to use it without command." "Guess you just fired your resignation letter," Jackson muttered. Lyra sank to her knees, trembling. "Every time I use it, I feel them watching. Like eyes behind my eyes." He crouched beside her. Then we find a way to shut those eyes for good. She looked up. There's only one place that can, Sector 0, the Genesis Core. That's where they made me. Jackson frowned. That's in Syndicate territory. You're asking me to walk into the lion's mouth. She smiled faintly. You already did the moment you took my hand. Sirens echoed again, this time distant but growing. Jackson helped her up, his face set with grim resolve. Then let's finish what they started. As they vanished deeper into the tunnels, the old hollow screens flickered back to life, displaying a symbol neither of them saw. The Syndicate's crest, and a message. Asset 47 has reactivated. Deploy the Hunter. The Syndicate's deadliest assassin just received his orders, and he used to be Jackson's closest friend. Far above the slums of Vorexis, inside a tower made of black glass and blood money, a man stood in silence. Steel skin, carbon eyes. The Syndicate's finest assassin. His name was HFY, Jackson's former brother-in-arms. Target confirmed, the AI intoned through the comm. Subject 47 and her human asset are moving towards Sector 0. Kale's jaw tightened. Send me their last location. I'll finish this personally. He holstered twin pulse blades glowing red and stepped into the drop chamber. The floor opened beneath him, and he plunged into the storm. Down below, Jackson and Lyra reached the transport docks. The air was thick with smog, neon signs flickering like dying ghosts. Jackson scanned for a vehicle. We need something fast, he muttered. Lyra pointed to an abandoned hover bike, half submerged in rainwater. Will that work? He smirked. If it starts. It roared to life on the first try. As they lifted off, Lyra clung to him. Who do they send after someone like you? She asked quietly. He didn't answer, but his silence said everything. Lightning split the sky, followed by a dark shape descending through the storm, twin red eyes burning like coals. Kale! Damn it, Jackson growled. He's faster than I thought. The assassin hit the bike mid-air, blades slicing sparks off the frame. The hovercraft spun out, crashing through a digital billboard. Jackson gripped the handlebars, shouting, Hold on! Lyra screamed as they plunged toward the lower levels again, fire trailing behind them. When the flames cleared, Kale stood among the wreckage, alive, relentless, and whispering Jackson's name through the static. Brother, you should have stayed dead. The wreckage burned bright against the endless night. Jackson staggered to his feet, coughing smoke. His jacket was shredded, ribs aching. Lyra crawled beside him, the glow in her skin fading to faint pulses. A shadow moved through the fire. Kale! He stepped out, untouched by the flames, his armor glinting with Syndicate insignia. Two red lights cut through the smoke, like the eyes of a machine that once knew how to feel. Still breathing, Kyle said coldly. You always were too stubborn to die. Jackson raised his weapon. Guess you didn't come to share old war stories. Kale tilted his head. Orders are simple. Retrieve the asset. Eliminate the liability. Lyra pushed herself up, voice trembling. You don't have to do this. For a second, the assassin's red eyes flickered. Human. She's not your concern, he said. They own her. They always will. Jackson stepped in front of her. Then they'll have to own me too. Kale's face hardened. You're making this harder than it has to be. Yeah, Jackson muttered, cocking his pulse gun. That's kind of my specialty. They clashed, light against light. Plasma blades and gunfire tore through the air. Sparks rained as steel met steel, every strike echoing the ghosts of a brotherhood long dead. Kale drove a blade into Jackson's side, twisting it just enough to drop him. You taught me to kill clean, he whispered. Don't make me break that rule. Lyra screamed, unleashing a burst of blue light that hurled Kale backward. The ground cracked. Her glow turned blinding. The city's network pulsed alive around them. That blast didn't just save Jackson, it sent a signal across the planet. Now the entire Syndicate knew exactly where they were. Sirens wailed through the metal veins of the city. Every Syndicate drone, soldier, and machine turned toward one point on the grid, Sector 0. Jackson limped beside Lyra as they moved through the underground rails. Blood soaked his side, but he refused to slow down. How much farther? He gritted. Lyra's voice was weak but steady. Just beyond that gate. The core is below us. They reached a massive steel door marked Genesis Restricted Access. Lyra placed her palm on the scanner. Her skin lit up and the metal parted like liquid. Inside, the chamber stretched endlessly downward, a cathedral of light and code. Cylinders filled with suspended hybrids glowed in eerie silence. Each one bore her face. Lyra froze, horror twisting her features. There are hundreds. Jackson's jaw tightened. You weren't the only one. They're asleep, she whispered. Waiting for activation. A voice boomed through the core, cold and synthetic. Welcome home, Subject 47. Your evolution is complete. Kale appeared on the walkway above. His armor cracked from their last fight, but his purpose intact. You can't save her, Jackson. You can't save any of them. Jackson raised his gun. Watch me. Kale moved, but Lyra stepped forward, light blooming around her like a star being born. They want control, she said. Then I'll give them chaos. The entire core trembled as her power spread into the mainframe. The lights turned white-hot. The clones inside the cylinders opened their eyes, each one reflecting her defiance. Lyra, stop! Jackson shouted. You'll burn yourself out. She smiled sadly. Maybe that's what I was made for. As the core overloaded, Jackson had one last choice, save Lyra or destroy the Syndicate forever. The Genesis core shook like a dying star. Warning sirens screamed. Light split through the chamber walls as Lyra's energy surged, racing through every wire, every tank, every clone suspended in artificial dreams. Jackson fought against the wind whipping through the collapsing chamber. Lyra, you don't have to do this. She looked at him, really. Looked. And for a moment, the world stopped tearing apart. I was created to obey, she whispered. But you taught me something they never programmed. Her hand brushed his cheek, glowing so bright he could barely see her. You taught me choice. Kale rose to his feet above them, trying to steady himself. Jackson, get out! If she destabilizes the core, you both die. Jackson didn't listen. He held Lyra's hands, feeling her pulse sinking with his. Then choose to live, he breathed. Not like this, she answered gently. Not connected to them. Cylinders burst around them, hybrids awakening, eyes glowing blue like her own. But instead of turning hostile, they bowed. They were linked to Lyra, not the Syndicate now. She smiled through tears. I can free them, but I can't survive the disconnect. No, Jackson growled. There has to be another way. There wasn't. She leaned in, forehead touching his. You once gave me a life without meaning. Now I give you a future without chains. Her light exploded outward. The core cracked. The entire city grid went dark, every Syndicate weapon, every surveillance drone, every lab. And Lyra vanished in the burst, gone like starlight swallowed by dawn. Jackson hit the floor, the echo of her warmth fading from his hands. Above him, Kyle staggered, stunned. She shut down the whole Syndicate alone. Jackson stood, eyes burning. No, not alone. He looked at the hundreds of awakened hybrids, free, unowned, waiting for someone to lead them. Jackson turned toward the ruined city, knowing the war wasn't over. Lyra freed them. Now he'd make sure her sacrifice meant something. The Syndicate would rise again, and he would be there to burn it down.